Most people believe that the world of Athas died thousands of years ago, and we live now but in its ruin. And it is true that no one but the mighty sorcerer-kings and their defiled towers could tell you why the world is what it has become, and what drives them to cling to their power, to want to claim the world's ashes for their own. But the rumor that the world has ended, like many rumors, is ignorant. Athas isn't dead, and it isn't dying. It is cruel and unforgiving, but beyond the desert wastes of the Tablelands, there is life strange and abundant. If you were to climb the towering peaks of the ringing mountains far to the west, you would find a dangerous paradise of lush forests and rivers, teeming with wildlife. Further still to the west, miles below the jagged cliffs, are the grassy lowlands of the Crimson Savanna, where rain is plentiful and death is swift. But in the Tablelands, its starving villages and its great city-states, people know very little or nothing at all about just how diverse and alive the world really is. Tonight, we begin our story in one such place full of life. Far to the northeast of Balic, home to our protagonists, is a little island lost in time, hidden among the storms of the Silt Sea. A fog of ash and wind swirls beyond the shore. A gray mist rises from the island's red, rocky beach. And beyond the beach looms a jungle of ancient trees with black trunks, black branches, dark green leaves, and violet-colored flowers that you could not find anywhere else in the world. The smell of rotting vegetation drifts from the jungle, and the sounds of bubbling water, the croaking of strange reptiles, and the songs of unfamiliar birds can be heard on the shore. Standing there on that beach are three of our protagonists: the elven counselor Akasha, the sand turtle Kronkwall, and the young liege of House Akatia, Merula. Sam, Cord, Christina, welcome back to Dark Sun. Hi. So, last session, each of you had a vision when you went to sleep of a shadowy figure hanging over you in the middle of the night. Each of you opened your eyes and then opened them a second time and found yourself here on this shore. So I want to go now around first and just remind folks who are watching of who you're playing today and what you think they might look like right now in this moment. And let's start with Sam.
Well, I am playing Merula, a young half-elf scion of House Akasha, and, well, I suppose I might be wearing my dressing gown? I think that is probably roughly where I am in this moment. And a face of significant alarm. Both of those. Oh, and a little knotted bracelet, but mostly yes.
And so it is. Cord, how about you?
I am playing Cronkwall. Sorry, I was looking at my my things because I don't know what I'm going to be bringing here. I think we're going to see Cronqual. Excuse me. He's about a 5. I think I mentioned his 5'10" turtle. Can go to about 6'6". He can be a pretty tall man, but he's a turtle dude with he's adorned with hides as well as a long staff. And he has he's got like wooden anklets, but I don't think he has his staff with him tonight. I think he was, last time we saw him last week, he was huddled in his little turtle shell and trying to rest. I don't think he has his staff tonight.
Okay. Christina, what about you?
Can you hear me now? Hi, My name is Christina Ariel, and I am playing Akasha or Laguerre if you're nasty. Depends on the moment. She's great. She's got 3 dolls that she talks to named Nico, Aya, and Arta. And if we've just found her at the house, she was not sleeping. She was thinking over everything that just happened. So she is sitting cross-legged. And she's wearing her pajamas.
Perfect. And so, Merula, you arrived to this beach first. You were alone for a minute as you were starting to take in your surroundings. And then, as you started to walk towards the tree line of this jungle just off of the beach, Cronkwall and Akasha and Laguerre appeared, just described as they've said. And you had met them for the first time earlier that evening. As they come into focus, and you would all notice this about each other, there's something strange about your skin. Not your clothes, but your faces, your hands. Everything's just slightly out of focus. The rest of the world around you isn't out of focus, but you yourselves are. You see each other there in this moment, all together on the beach.
Where are we?
Tortle?
Yes. Kronqual?
Tortle?
I've never been here.
I haven't either. So it is familiar.
Why are you in my room?
I'm not in your room.
Why are you in my dream?
Why are you in my dream?
Maybe I'm mischievous like that.
Oh. Right.
They are following us.
Ooh.
I want to explore a little bit. I mean, as long as it's a dream.
All right. Let's explore a bit.
I thought I heard water.
Ooh. This must be a dream.
She's crazy. There is no water. I know. They're crazy.
They're
crazy.
You can all roll me if you are looking around or wanting to investigate or listen. You can roll me any kind of check: perception, investigation, arcana, if that's relevant for you.
Certainly not. That's forbidden now. That's a dirty 20 from me.
11.
All right.
Arcana?
If you want, yeah, absolutely.
$19.
Let's start with Merula. Where is their focus currently? What would they be looking at, or what would have their attention here?
Well, I think I was trying to listen for the sound of that water, and logically, I would imagine that would be near the tree line, you know, vegetation and root systems and all of those sorts of things. So I'm probably looking that way a little bit, trying to pin down that sound of water I heard.
You can hear it when you listen, the bubbling of a creek, even just the moisture dripping off of leaves. It's not raining right now, but it must have recently. You can hear that sound that you heard before, just a little ways into the jungle. You also notice, when you're paying attention to the tree line, just this sort of It's like a fog, but thinner than regular fog, this low gray hanging mist that it drifts a few feet away from the tree line and then ripples back. And then it drifts a few feet away from the tree line and it ripples back into the jungle again. Cronkwall. What is Cronkwall looking into? What would gather his attention right now?
I think he would be probably looking towards and trying to listen towards the water. I don't know if he has great eyesight, but I think he's going to try to take the moment and listen and find out which direction it could be. I think his ears perked up when he heard water because of the value, and also it's been so long, I think, since he's seen water.
You can just hear it. It takes a minute for you over the sounds of the chittering of the insects and what other animals and beasts lie in the jungle. You can hear it. It can't be far. Water doesn't tend to be that loud.
Do I know which way in a direction?
You think you could probably follow it, as does Merula. If you get closer to the sound, it'll get louder. What about Akasha? Where's her attention? Laguerre.
Her attention is on trying to ignore the situation around her. So she is sitting cross-legged on the ground with her dolls, just watching everything that's happening. She's just waiting to see which way they go because everything is still so fuzzy. She's just like taking it all in, and she's in a very defensive mode.
And you rolled a 19. Did you roll an Arcana?
Mm-hmm. +2.
So as you're sort of just taking in everything broadly, and because you're an elf too, you can see a little bit further into the night. There's this silt storm out in the Silt Sea across the beach here that kind of blots out the light that's not directly above you, and it's almost like a wall. You can see the light of the two moons up above just barely, see the stars just barely, but further away from the island, it's just this wall of black silt swirling around. And for a moment, you catch glimpses, shapes there, giant shapes, giant humanoid shapes, just sort of wading through the silt around the island. Then they're gone again. And with the 19, I'll give you as well that you don't think this is a dream. Even if you did before, your gut, your instincts are suggesting at least that it might not be. There's something a little more real about this.
You're all crazy. It's not a dream. Look.
Does seem real.
If this is a dream, why are you awake?
Oh.
I'm certainly not awake. Ow! How? What? No. No, yes, how?
Dream. It's not a dream. It's not a dream.
Dream or not,
Something's coming. It's gonna be
I think there's water this way.
Yes, we should follow that if nothing else, and perhaps mind that fog out there.
Not fog, people. Maybe people. Maybe monsters. Maybe people. Maybe monsters. It's probably monsters.
Monsters.
It's probably monsters.
Monsters. It's all right. I
My
will
dreams are all
protect.
nightmares.
What?
All my dreams are nightmares.
Oh. But we're in her dream.
And my nightmare.
I think I would like to break off a branch of something and have a bit of an improvised stabbing thing. That's quite alarming to me.
Absolutely. Roll me an intelligence saving throw.
Hmm. 7.
Your hand passes through the branch. And for a second, it's almost like a sand painting being swirled in your hand, and then it kind of reforms a little bit.
You saw that? Did you see that?
What is going on?
I try it again, see if I'm a ghost. Maybe I died. Maybe I died in my sleep.
Nightmare.
Second time you try, Merula, you break the branch off in your hand and you have an improvised stabbing weapon. You realize when you're holding it, you can smell and you can see and you can hear, but your sense of feel is a little off. It's almost like your fingers are numb.
I don't like this. I don't like your dreams.
They're nightmares, and no one likes nightmares.
Let's make our way to the water.
Lead us to the water.
I do.
I will protect.
Thank you, Kronqual.
Turtle. Turtle.
So as you travel away from the beach, beneath the canopy through the tree line, what about light? It's still night. It'd be late at night, but it's still night. Do any of you have the means or create the means for there to be light?
Well, I see well enough in low light vision. Kronqual?
Yes?
Can you see in the dark?
I can't see anything. I'm just using my ears. I think it's this. Well, that's a tree.
Oh, no. Take my hand. I didn't have any torches with me in my pajamas.
I didn't either. All right. Lead the way, but I will protect.
Does Laguerre follow the others?
She hesitates for a minute and then she gets up and begins to follow them. But she's like slowly walking mildly creepily in the back.
Mildly.
So Merula, you lead the group, holding on to Cronkwall, and there is a bit of moonlight that spills through the canopy in sections, creating these little rays of light between trees. More useful for Laguerre and for Merula than for Cronkwall, but enough that with help, Cronkwall, you're able to avoid bumping into trees every 2 seconds. The old trees of the jungle are thick, and the path through them is overgrown with untamed vegetation. It's unlike anything I think any of you have probably ever seen before. And you follow that sound towards the water, traveling for a short time through the dark. I think Merula and Akasha, because you can see a little bit better, you notice as you're walking dozens of tiny six-eyed lizards crawling over the blackened tree trunks, their scales giving off a little bit of light that pulses and changes color every few moments. They skitter around. They're pretty common. it creates this sort of fairy glow to this little section of the jungle. After a time traveling through the woods, you get to that brook, and it's just a little creek that runs along. You could follow it deeper into the jungle. But there, drinking from its waters, is a great cat with fiery fur and really fluffy fur. It's roaming just ahead. It's probably about 40, 50 feet away from you at the moment.
Kronqual, there's a very, very, very large cat, about 40 to 50 feet away.
All right.
Don't startle it.
All right.
Kitty. And Akasha walks towards the kitty.
Absolutely, yeah. So Akasha, who is kind of in the back of the group, just moves forward to the front towards this little babbling brook, this creek, and this large red-haired fluffy cat. And Akasha, as you get closer, making the noise that you make when you walk through a thick vegetated jungle, the cat turns to look at you, not with its head, but with its eyes. And it has two golden eyes that move along long snaking eye stalks out of its head. And the eyes turn around and look behind it to see you. And it gives a long, loud yawn. It sort of rattles the leaves overhead.
Kitty. And she starts to go towards it and pets it.
Roll me an animal handling check.
Cronkwall, you may imminently need to protect.
Oh, all right. What's that? Where is Akasha?
Hang on just a moment. I would like to turn around, crack a stick, and use prestidigitation to light it as a torch. With my back turned to Kronqual.
Absolutely. And even though it was hard for you to take that stick, your magic seems to work. The stick lights on fire.
Ooh.
Here, take this.
Thank you.
How? I can see what, like 10 feet or so in front of me?
Yeah, we'll give you like 10 feet of good vision and then like maybe another 10 feet of dim vision.
Yeah, okay.
And I would say with the moonlight coming through too, kind of reflecting off of this creek's water, you can just make out the silhouette of this cat and Akasha Laguerre. What was your animal handling check, out of curiosity?
14.
Okay. So, Cronkwall, are you approaching?
Yes.
Okay. I think is it like across the water?
It's on this side of the creek. Yeah, and this creek is not a river, right? You wouldn't have to wade through it.
A couple steps and you're over it.
That's right, yeah. You can actually see the rocks sticking up from it. So
What's a river?
Maybe we'll find out. Laguerre, you pet the kitty, this large, fluffy cat, and some of its red fur doesn't come off in your fingers. It doesn't stick to you, but your brushing actually knocks a little bit of its fur loose and kind of sifts to the ground. And its eyes are watching you. They don't really have pupils. They're more like golden orbs. And they just kind of move in tandem up and down and around, looking you over as you're petting it. What's your intention here? Is it just
I notice that the kitty is shredding, so I start to comb with my fingers. Say, sheddy kitty.
Roll me an intelligence saving throw.
14.
Yeah, you're able to do it. It looks uncomfortable. It kind of, you can feel its hair stick up a little bit the more you touch it as it's watching you, and you can hear a low growl in the back of its throat. I would say with the previous 14, it doesn't sound hungry, maybe more just of a warning sound that a beast would give.
Oh, be careful.
She steps back. Leave him be, leave him be, leave him be, leave him be.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I support that course of action.
I'm sorry, friend. I feel that you're uncomfortable. Thank you for letting me pet you. Will you be my friend? You'll be our friend. You will be our friend.
The great cat yawns again, stretching its mouth, and as it does, you can see that it's got not one but 2 rows of teeth inside of its mouth, and 2 tongues as well that kind of flop around the bottom of its jaw. It's just a long leonine stretch of its mouth, and again, the leaves overhead rumble. Its eyes continue to watch you for a moment, and then with a lazy gait, it turns and lopes away across the stream, across the brook, continuing deeper into the jungle.
We should follow him.
Why?
What?
It's a nightmare. I might as well have an adventure.
If it's a nightmare, we should drink water.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have a nightmare.
I don't think that's how that works.
Oh,
Still, I am going to drink from this creek.
fresh water. Be careful.
I carefully drink from the creek.
Just like before with the branch, it takes a couple of scoops to be able to lift any of the water from this little creek. You can't feel that it's wet. You can't feel if it's warm or cold. And if you were to put it to your lips and try to drink from it, you do, but you don't taste. It doesn't refresh you.
Go figure. Just like Tantalus.
Nightmare.
What kind of place is this that has so much water and vegetation and very large predators?
Evil.
The wilds. My home.
Your home is like this?
Have to be careful. We need to protect one another.
Yes. Well, I will protect you.
And I will protect. I will also drink from this water.
He states, and then Cronkwall bends down and slowly he just like kind of falls to almost all fours, a little less graceful than you'd think, and then his neck just elongates. And he starts to just scoop up some of the water like a shovel or like a steam shovel, as he's just lets the water just flow into his jaw. So he laps it up.
Go ahead and roll me an intelligence saving throw, Kronkwall.
Oh boy. Oh, whoops, I'm rolling. I want to do it on the table. 18 plus 1 is 19.
It's the same as it was for Merula. You can, even on your first attempt, take some water into your hands, put it to your lips, drink it, but you don't feel it in your throat. It doesn't taste like water. But with a 19 and Kronqual's psionic powers, you become convinced that this isn't a dream, but that your psychic presences are here, but not your bodies, not your true bodies.
We seem to be here. Our center is here. But our bodies are in Balic.
I'm in my body.
We are having some sort of vision. I've been on one of these before.
What happened then?
I learned how to protect.
So what are the three of us here to learn now?
That is up to the way to tell us.
It's moonlit tonight. We can see through the canopy. Yes, so I would like to climb a tree. I want to see the stars.
Absolutely. And you can. The trees here are large with many, many hanging branches, and much more alive than even the greatest trees in the farmlands and the villas of the nobles. You're able to climb to the top through green and purple leaves, past flowers. You see those little lizards, those six-eyed lizards that change colors, shooting up the trunk around you.
I avoid them.
And they avoid you too. Sometimes you'll see one of their tongues flicker out and then come back into its mouth, and then it'll scurry back down. You get up to the top, and through the canopy, you look up into the sky. Or would you say Merula is... Are they familiar with the stars? Do they stargaze?
They are educated in the music of the spheres. It is a very classical element of education.
So you would know Ral and Guthay, the two moons of Athas, the red moon and the green moon. And they are hanging in the night sky. You can see them. You can see the stars. And you were out earlier this night. You saw the moon and the stars then. But everything is in a different position now.
May I calculate it or make some inferences about that position?
Absolutely. So I think this would be, I want to call this a history check.
Oh, that was a 19 on the dice, so that's 21.
That's very good. So with a 21, it's not that you can, you couldn't point to a map and be like, we're here. But you, after thinking about it and thinking about how late at night it is now, and where the stars and the moons were before, that you must be certainly far to the north. But you also think with a 21, you're also further east. And you know that surrounding this island, at least on one side, is the Silt Sea, And it's the west side where you started on the island on the beach, whereas in Balic, the Silt Sea is to your east.
I climb down from this tree, avoiding lizards of any number of eyes, 6 or otherwise, and I report my conclusions to my new friends.
Oh,
Merula, 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 Merula. She's just watching and just singing Merula's name, waiting for her to come, waiting for them to come back.
Well, I had a look at the stars, and I inferred a bit about our position, where this place might be. Very far north and very far east of Balic.
oh.
This place is strange to me.
Very far north and east.
Yes. I suppose possibly on the other side of the Silt Sea, though this is an island of some sort, I think, so it's difficult to be sure.
Don, do I know this area? Does Kronqual know this area? No.
The flowers here are not, the flowers specifically are not like any you've seen. Some of the beasts might be similar to beasts you've seen on isles in the Silt Sea. There's not many isles in Silt Sea that have jungles or water. Most of the islands are just like the rest of Athas, dry and barren. There's a few that do, but this one is not one that you're familiar with.
I'm afraid that I've lost my familiarity with where we are. For a moment, I thought we were more south, but I was wrong.
Turtle
I'm
is afraid.
I can't help you.
Turtle is afraid. No, Turtle is afraid of. Afraid of.
Afraid of what?
You said, I'm afraid.
I am afraid I can't be that much help.
You're terribly helpful. You protect.
Did you say totally helpful?
I wouldn't dream of such a thing, no. It'd be terribly insensitive of me.
Must have been my mind.
Well, this is a strange phenomenon, as you say. Perhaps it's having its effect. Where should we go from here?
We can explore and have an adventure in the nightmare.
I haven't properly adventured before.
Oh, just be careful.
All right.
Where would you like to go?
I think further inland, yes? Maybe to the center of the island? We know where the beach is, so...
All right, then let's go.
See, Waddles turns around and starts to just plow through vegetation. Branches crackling and snapping under his feet as he just waddles through the brush, making a path for people.
You continue on then, all of you. Follow the sort of twisting and turning of the creek deeper into the jungle. You don't see the cat. At one point you hear a sound that sounds like another one of those great yawns, that low vibrating sound, just a little further along the creek. All of you can roll me a perception check.
That'll be an 8 from me, bro.
And from me, bro.
That's a 5, brother.
Everything's fine.
Mm.
The sound of the rumbling is further along, following the creek. Or you could go deeper into the jungle, where the vegetation's thicker. I'll say that at this point, I think it's probably likely that you're starting to feel disoriented about where
Yes.
you are, where you started from.
Mm. The brush is thicker here. Or we can go there.
Lady Akasha?
Follow the turtle.
Mm.
I think we should see what's going on where the brush is thickest. Yes, that's the most life.
And the most fresh winds. Mm.
I think you see his neck extend a bit more as it turns towards the thicker brush, and if Don will allow, a breeze coming by as he just starts to smile a little bit, and then just slowly start waddling towards the dense brush.
And you stomp it out of your way. You move through, breaking branches and brush that have been growing here probably for a long time, deeper and deeper into that jungle. And a little further in, you see ahead of you a break in the tree line. You can see the moonlight a little more clearly where that break is, as though there were no canopy beyond that, or little canopy beyond that. And it's almost as soon as you see that break that you hear, it sounds like a soft weeping.
Do you hear that?
I do.
Hear it.
Someone weeping.
Where's it coming from?
Sounds like it's coming from ahead of you, in the direction of that break in the tree line.
I can move up very quietly and try to take a look.
All right. Remember what I said.
Tears are more dangerous than kitties.
I'll remember both those things.
Mm.
I'd like very quietly to try to sneak up and see what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead and make me a stealth check.
13.
Okay. And as you get closer to the break in the tree line in the jungle, that weeping stutters and starts and stutters and starts, and just once you hear words in the common tongue. Antony, oh Antony, no. It's just beyond the tree line. You don't see anybody yet, but you've been very quiet moving through, and you're almost there now.
I put the torch out.
Just drops it and steps on it.
I try to
I'd say
gesture.
Yeah, I think we could say that they all see you gesture back to them. Are you both, for Laguerre and Cronkwall, are you staying with Merula, or are you staying further back?
Kronkwall's
Yes.
Advancing.
Okay.
Laguerre's kind of walking behind and like picking at their clothes. Following far too closely.
Far too closely. Uncomfortably close. Merula, do you advance through the tree line? A little more out into the open, or are you staying like behind to look?
I'd like to circle around from within the tree line to get a look. I'm a little more comfortable if I'm a little more hidden, taking heed of Kronqual's words, of course.
Of course. So it's a little further away that you walk before you look, and you can see the waning light of the stars and the two moons shine down here at the edge of what's the highland jungle. Beyond the thinning trees is this cliff that overlooks lowland jungles and what sort of seems like it might be a swamp below, marked by thinner trees with these great weeping willows that have purple leaves. And that gray mist that you saw before hangs over the swamp below, especially, obscuring view of what waits in the distance. Just barely at the edge of your vision as you're kind of looking out beyond, you can see within the mist what looks like the shadow of a mountain or a large structure, just the silhouette of it through the mist. But here at the edge of the cliff face is a young elvish woman with golden hair and a white muddy dress, kneeling down at the edge of the cliff, and she's sort of weeping softly into both of her hands. She's looking down over the cliffside, and because you sort of step further away, you have a better look at her face. You can see that there's something of a mix of horror and sorrow in her eyes. She's not looking at you. She doesn't seem to have noticed you.
Does our culture have a Eurona myth of any kind?
I don't know, because I don't know what that means.
The weeping woman,
There are certainly like folklores about ghosts and undead. Roll me a, let's call it a history check again.
Natural 20.
Yes. It's this very description, down to the white muddy dress and the golden hair, everything about it. Fits, say, a tome that you read, a history tome that describes a mythological creature called a night twist that can appear as something it's not. It's actually, supposedly, some sort of plant life, but it is manipulative and it is hungry.
I move back and rejoin the other two, and that weeping woman.
Are they all right?
Cronkwall and Laguerre, please make me wisdom saving throws.
All right. 14.
Sorry. That's a 14, no modifier.
Okay. Merula returns, and then they start to talk to you about the woman, the elven woman there. You feel this pull, this urge to go to her, to the woman who's kneeling and weeping. But you still have control over yourselves, and then Merula returns.
Is she all right?
She is all right in the sense that I think she is a night twist and would be more all right if maybe she ate someone.
What?
That's a nightmare. Like Lady Akasha said
Oh,
that is not a simple
That's
weeping.
rude. Eating
sorry?
people. It's rude.
I do quite agree. And
very
personally, I'd
rude.
rather enjoy myself in an undigested state.
Mm. Why are they crying?
I think it's a method of luring beings like us, drawn to help. Like a sort of carnivorous plant, but very advanced.
Hmm.
Don, would Cronkwall know anything about a night twist or anything like this?
If not this exact thing, you've seen some weird things out on the islands and in the wilderness. There's no this doesn't sound outlandish to Kronkwall. Sounds like a possibility, especially because Cronkwall is so strong with the way and understands the power of psionics and how all creatures, even plants and animals, have psionic power, some of them greater than others. There are some beasts and some plants that can make you see things, do things, believe things that aren't true. And as you're sort of pondering this, the woman's still there at the edge of the cliff weeping, with the lowlands beyond and that hanging mist where there's that great shape just sort of hidden, silhouetted beyond it.
All right. Could we find another way around?
I would like to get to whatever that is up there.
Hmm. Can we go around?
What's Laguerre doing right now as they're sort of conversing the next steps?
Gare's doing what she's usually doing when there's drama afoot. She is distracted. So she's leaning in, kind of looking at the woman suspiciously, watching Merula, who's like far too into this for someone who's could possibly be eaten. And Tortle is Tortle. Tears are more dangerous than kitties. They'll lull you in with their song. A kitty could strap you, but tears will control you and put you in danger's way. I told you tears were dangerous.
You are quite right.
Oh, it's nice. Hmm.
As soon as the song ends, the tears stop. There's no more crying from the woman. And the moonlight that's been reflecting off of her dress there, about 60, 80 yards away from you through the tree line at the edge of this cliff, that reflecting light fades away as though her dress, her skin were being drained of its color and cast over her in the rocky ground ahead of her is what looks like the tall shadow of a tree. Her head is starting to turn slowly, rotating towards the tree line, towards the three of you, hidden there.
Oh. I think it sees us.
I would like to move to a different location so it might not see me.
Are you staying with the others, or are you off on your own?
I'm going to start moving slowly and making my way, as if to encourage my compatriots also to GTFO.
Kronqual tries very hard to be quiet, but I'm not sure if the brush and the reeds in his shell are going to allow it. But he's going to try his best.
And Laguerre?
I will begrudgingly follow Merula.
If you want to follow stealthily, you can roll me a stealth check.
26 from Merula.
18.
Yeah, that's pretty good, Cronkwall.
I'm surprised as well.
4.
Oh no.
Oh.
It was going so well.
And it was. It's one of those moments where you're all going together and you're not stepping on any brush, you're not making any sounds, and you actually see, Merrill, as you're moving through, that there's like this winding path a little ways down the cliff that looks like it's steep, but it's not a sheer climb. You might be able to just walk down it and descend at least part the way. And as soon as you notice it, it's that moment where Laguerre accidentally steps on a branch and it breaks. And it's like all of the chittering of insects, all of the sounds of the jungle stop in that moment just so that branch snapping can echo out. Do any of you look back behind you?
Yeah, I think Kronqual just turns his neck around the shell, and I think from maybe Akasha's perspective, she sees Laguerre's perspective. She sees the shell, and then just this bump of where his head is turned, and it's just his eyes peering over his shell, but with his neck snaking around, looking at you, going,
Ooh, try to be quiet.
Laguerre makes that noise that you make when you're trying to sneak through the crowd at church and you accidentally step on someone's foot and you go,
Cronkwall, as you turn around to speak to Laguerre, you see in the woods now, not on the cliff, that woman, her dress black now, that same strange shadow cast over her and onto the ground in front of her, drowning out the moonlight. And she's much closer, staring specifically at Laguerre. And she's smiling, a too wide smile, and her limbs begin to twist and bend in awkward ways, as though she had more joints than she should. And in a moment, you see her, Kronkwall, as her illusion vanishes, and what she truly is, a black tree with no roots, some 12 feet tall, shambling over the ground towards you. Its gnarled limbs excrete this sort of green slime, and its limbs are stretching out in Laguerre's direction. Some 30, 40 feet back, just shambling, following you.
Akasha. Lady's a tree. Look out.
that seems uncomfortable.
Move faster.
What?
"Says the turtle."
Wait, come on. There's a way down the cliff.
Huh?
This way.
Why are you
Ladies-
talking so soft?
She's wearing a black dress now. And
Just come on. Do it.
she's
Come on.
behind you.
All right. Are you running? What's everyone doing? Let's start with Merila. Are you staying? Are you running?
I am not going to run until I know that Laguerre knows what she's doing and that there is a murder plant coming her way. So I'm going to try to stay hidden as much as I can. I'm not making a break for it away from everybody else.
And I'll let you keep your previous roles for stealth. Cronkwall, how about you?
I think Kronqual he was talking over his shell this whole time, but I think he finally just like adjusts his body, his head staying stationary as his body rotates around as he starts to, I guess, walk a little bit closer towards Laguerre and tries to, I guess, like guide her towards just away from this creature. So this thing is like a 12-foot black tree with
Right.
no roots, and it's kind of just like
No
walks.
roots. Imagine that its roots are just this mess of branchy tendrils beneath it that are shambling. They're crawling like that across the forest floor. And I think they're audible now. They're getting close enough. How about Laguerre? So, what's Laguerre doing here?
Why are you making that sound?
I'm not making a sound. That's the tree lady. Look behind you. But you should hurry this way.
Is this a joke?
This is not a joke. I will protect, but you need to come here.
Okay. And she makes her way over to where they're trying to escape.
Did you look behind you?
No, I just started walking.
Cronkwall, it shambles. It's not very fast, but it never stops moving. Its branches never stop crawling across the earth, and it's a little bit closer before Laguerre starts to come along. And you can just make out in just a ray of moonlight that hits it what look like vaguely humanoid faces, and its bark carved into its oozing trunk. But it's following. It doesn't move as fast as you. So are you all making a beeline for somewhere?
I want to show them, now that they're moving, show them the cliff path that I just saw.
Oh, you should be quick then.
Yes.
Oh, is there like reeds or stalks or something nearby that I can possibly make an impromptu quarterstaff from?
Yeah, let's call it a survival check.
Survival?
I'm going to say yes, but the quality of the staff that you can find in this, because you're still you're trying to find something while on the move.
I rolled a 7.
Trying not to get eaten. A 7?
Yes.
So here's what we'll do. Yes, so you have basically like a stick, a piece of trunk that's been broken off, like a big branch that you can use. It's going to have -1 to both its attack roll and to its damage roll because of the quality. And it will break. It has a 50% chance to break on a natural 1 or a natural 20.
Cool.
But yes, but you have
so natural. All right.
so natural. And this thing continues to shamble behind you. You are all able to move fast. Is the idea here that you want to climb down, or you want to try to take the path?
I think the path is probably a better bet.
You can all see now that you've moved onto the cliff face away from the tree line. Everything I described before below is a lowlands. It's a jungle, but it's a different sort of jungle with weeping willow trees and this hanging gray mist and lots of water. Unlike the bubbling creek that you were sort of following for a while, this looks more like a swamp. And you can see that the path moves downward. It winds along this cliff face. And as you're descending, you're not slipping. There's no threat of falling. It's like, for whatever reason, your feet just kind of know where to go. And I think
Does the scary tree lady follow us?
I think when you descend, when you look up to the top, it's hanging there at the edge of the cliff face, just kind of bent over the top, and its branches twitching up above you. It's too large to move down this little path, so it's up above, but you can still hear
looming over.
It's looming over as you're descending along the cliff face, just kind of watching you. You can hear that weeping sound that you heard before, the woman's weeping sound, sort of changes into something that's a little more like laughter. It's a little less human, but it remains there as you descend. It does not follow you.
It's staying still.
Good.
I don't like it.
Me neither. I don't think I'll invite it to my birthday.
Mm,
Am I invited to your birthday?
Well, certainly. You're one of the first acquaintances I've made in Balic City proper. So I suppose both of you are. It's not for quite a while, so...
I was about to ask when Merula's birthday is.
It was just like a couple months ago. It's gonna be a long time before it comes around.
oh, darn.
To imagine we're just hanging off the side of this thing, like talking about it for
Birthdays.
Right, yeah, you're on this like sheer cliff. Right, and that's the strange thing is that your bodies are kind of tilted like that. Like this should be a lot slipperier than it is, but because of, I think, Kronqual, because you kind of have a sense of what you are or what's going on to a certain degree, you realize that you can't really fall because you're not really in your body.
Right.
Thank the way for small favors, I suppose.
Thank the way.
The cliff here continues down, and as you descend it towards the faded swamps at its base, the light of day is just starting to break over the edge of the horizon, creating this sort of hazy glow all around you. And the insects and the sounds of wildlife are starting to change as the nocturnal creatures give way to the early morning creatures. The trees from the swamp rise up from its water with these black trunks covered in white lichen and purple moss. And their low-hanging purple leaves vaguely resemble spider webs that sway with a cool breeze. The swamp itself is only a few feet deep. And you can see rocks breaking up, stretching up like skeletal fingers out of its water. And that steam, that fog rises from that swamp, and it just sort of coalesces around the surface of the water. You can descend, you can continue traveling on. You can see through the canopy of the swamp, the trees in the swamp, that with the morning light catching the surface a little bit, whatever that structure is in the distance, it sort of has this red glow to it, just the reflection of the beginning of sunlight off of whatever surface it has.
The sun's rising.
What we just descended, it was seemingly cut into the cliff. Yes? Some kind of an intentional route?
Yeah, I don't think you need to make a check for that. It definitely seemed intentional.
So then I might infer that there's some sort of path that people typically navigate by to get through this swamp. Maybe we ought to take a look for it.
What is that up ahead?
As he points with the stick towards the reflection of the sun rising off of the surface of this object.
Oh.
Does it look like it's man-made from here?
Before, it might have looked like it was geographical, but geographic shapes, they don't have straight lines, and this has straight lines. So you can't tell what it is because of how thick the steam, this roiling mist is. But when you get a look at the silhouette of the reflection of its lines, of its shape, I think you would think it might be humanoid made.
Interesting. Safe to travel the road, I think.
It's probably better if we do. I'm sure there's all manner of things here.
Yes,
There's so much life, and I suppose some of it might be a little bit rude. I look back up the cliff again.
It's still up there. It's just hanging there.
Hate that. So yes, I'd like to take a look, see if there is sort of a path through this swamp, like what was intended after you get down the cliff if you want to get to this structure. It seems like the point worth going toward.
So the path down the cliff goes straight into the swamp, and the swamp covers whatever path might have been there. That white lichen that grows on the trees here, it grows on everything here. The rocks, the edge of the cliff. The wilderness has overtaken, if there was ever any sort of civilization here, it's long since overtaken it. And you can sort of watch that little path into the swamp beyond. You see for a moment the long, scaly tail of what's some sort of lizard, large lizard, rises up and splashes against the water a little bit, maybe 100 yards to the east. And then that tail drifts away, and the creature swims in the opposite direction.
Carefully, then, I think.
Careful.
Nothing for it but to do it. I want to start making my way through the swamp.
So if you're the first one to go, then you would notice first, you don't sink into the water. You walk over it like it was the ground. It's just another surface.
Ooh.
Who goes second?
Kronqual, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, Kronkwall would probably be last because he was between the tree and everyone else.
And Laguerre is still following far too close to Merula.
Far too close. Is she still playing with Merula's clothes every once in a while? Or is she just close?
She's just close walking, like super close. And she's so fast because she's an elf that it's kind of intentional and unintentional. And she's like, thinks that this is what normal people walk like. So she's just like trying her best, but like can't get her bearings about it. So she's just like.
I've also seen New Yorkers attempt to walk with anybody else.
Just about to say that.
Cronkwall, you come up at the rear, and all of you, as you start to move over the top of this water, stepping on it just like for the ground, that gray steam begins to grow thicker around you. Cronkwall, it's getting harder for you to see the nearby willow trees, to see Merula and Akasha. They're not that far ahead of you, but all of a sudden, just this fog rolls over top of you. And when you look down, you can't see your feet. You can't see the water. Roll me a perception check, Kronqual.
18.
Merula and Akasha Laguerre, as you're walking along the surface of this water, it invokes this sort of unexpected emotional response as this mist swirls about you. Roll me a charisma saving throw, the both of you.
Okay. 10.
I can't see anything. Mist is blowing in.
23.
For Laguerre, it's just a momentary weird feeling, a comfortable feeling. For Merula, a specific memory, a very vivid memory, just clings to the back of your mind all of a sudden. Something that they would have no reason to be thinking about right now. What does Merula remember in this moment? What memory is summoned?
It was my father and his wife, and they were yelling, and I tried to go into the room, and she screamed and screamed and screamed, and then I ran away out into the dark.
And that lack of light, that feeling of wanting to get away, of the emotional confusion of what the ground felt like underneath their feet as they were running out the door, running away, what the sky looked like. All of that physical sensation becomes momentarily more real for you as you're moving through this mist than anything you've felt since you came to this island.
So then I'll be running through the swamp then, shall I?
Sure.
I take off going.
And Laguerre, you were keeping up, like uncomfortably close with Merula. Merula starts running forward over top of the surface of this swamp. Does Laguerre follow?
Yes, but I don't have to speed up that much. I just have to like take.
Because you're just so fast.
I am graceful. Yeah.
And graceful. And so you speed along as well. Neither of you hear Cronkwall's cry from behind at the back of the group that you can't see, that the mist has grown thick. Cronkwall, where you are, moving through and around this large tree, one of the many in this swamp, the swaying purple leaves of that willow tree begin to draw together, taking on strange shapes at the edge of the mist, the edge of your vision. And for a moment, you feel a strong tug at the back of your shell as though something were trying to pull you back out of the swamp.
Let go of me.
He's gonna try to turn and look. See what's grabbing at him, what's pulling him, if anything.
You turn and look, and just like ahead of you, behind you, is just more of that steam. And it is steam. You feel like it's hot. This gray mist that's rising up off of the water. And with that heat, the smell of smoke and fire begin to become more vivid, more overwhelming for you, Cronkwall. Strange shapes being formed by the trees. They sort of disappear as this mist gets even thicker. And with that perception check you had before, you just have this growing feeling that you're not alone here.
Friends, I can't see. I don't know where you went. Friends.
You can just hear the echoing of your own voice over the water. Echoing. No answer. No sounds now of insects or animals. The steam begins to recede only a little. You still cannot see the trees of the swamp or your new friends. You can't see the water beneath you still. But you do see, moving very, very slowly, the edge of that mist, shapes, figures, people, wielding spears and staves.
No. No. Akasha. Merula.
You call out again, and those figures at the edge of your vision continue to move slowly, wandering. The mist continues to recede, but it's not Akasha or Merula there. And last, the fog recedes enough that you can see the faces of those figures all around you. Familiar faces. Faces of family. of other turtles, just like you.
Hello? Kronqual is I. Hello?
You smell fire and smoke. Those drifting bodies at the edge of the mist turn towards you. Look at you. Continue to move. The mist continues to pull further and further back. Those figures recede with the mist, like they're being washed out to sea. But it's slow. You can follow, or you cannot.
I think he's going to look around to see if he can spot Ligera or Merula. Or is it just too thick in this mist?
You don't see them. You don't see the swamp. You just see the figures in the mist.
Follow.
As Merula runs away deeper and deeper into the swamp in the direction of that structure in the distance, and Akasha follows. And Cronkwall is elsewhere, walking in the opposite direction, deeper into the mist. I think that's where we are going to take a break.
Greetings, adventurers. Today we're excited to introduce you to a new story, Dark Dice, a horror podcast that blurs the line between actual play and audio drama, where the story is determined by the roll of the dice. 6 adventurers embark on a journey into the ruinous domain of the nameless god. They will never be the same again. One of the players is not what they seem after a doppelganger, a creature that can assume the form and voice of whatever it kills, infiltrates the team. As the players are picked off and replaced one at a time, can they figure out who the monster is before it's too late? Can you? In addition to a full-blown fantasy soundtrack with over 30 live medieval instruments and a 40-person choir, sound effects further enhance the story. Here's a quick example of what that sounds like.
The shambler with the jar of liquid inside of him.
Soren Arkwright let loose an arrow that cracked the glass, passing through the spine of the creature. The shambler still managed to maintain its forward momentum, but stumbled as it eagerly tried to bite and swipe at Soren, landing near his feet. As Rowena struck the shambling creature near Soren, she shattered the canister in its stomach, sending its liquid contents spilling to the ground. With a rush of liquid, the small fetus fell too, twitching and moving toward Rowena.
I'm gonna punt you.
Rowena launched the fetus into the mouth of the mimic with a kick.
So if you dare, gamble your sanity and subscribe to Dark Dice however you listen to podcasts, or on Spotify. Dark Dice can also be streamed at darkdicepod.com.
Ever since I was a child, I had to grow up on the streets, wrestling alley bears for food and fighting guards for my own freedom. It was in those streets that I knew I couldn't trust anyone but myself. The only thing for sure was that I had to find the monsters who put me there, to exact my revenge, and finally put my restless hunger for blood at ease.
So is that why you're standing in the corner of a tavern conspicuously?
That's something deeply mysterious and intriguing for you to find out. But I doubt you'd understand all the pain and suffering I've had to endure to...
All right then, I'll see you later.
Wait, no, you were supposed to be deeply interested and ask me more about my backstory. You know what? I'm tired of being another cog in the machine of an adventuring party. I'm going off on my own, following my own creed and doing what needs to be done. That's right, I'm going rogue. Do you get it? Rogues are the sneaky, savvy, skilly-willy utility monkeys of the Forgotten Realms, and the best pick if you're a backseat gamer since it lets you interrupt someone trying their best because they weren't doing it right. However, if you want to Mary Sue it up even more than you already are, you also get expertise so that you can upgrade those proficiencies to anime protagonist levels of ridiculous. Now I know what you're thinking, this sounds a lot like Bard, and while that's partly true, the difference is rogues aren't automatically assumed to be the comic relief. Instead, they're deep, dark, and brooding, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, holidays excluded because who could be grumpy on Christmas? The other main difference is their unique combat feature, the sneak attack, and because the names in D&D are always inaccurate, you don't actually have to be low to the ground and covered in shit to deal the sneak attack bonus damage, but rather anytime the enemy's just not feeling up to it today and just wants to get it over with. This means if the enemy's being flanked, or if they're laying prone on the ground, or they just bragged about how high their IQ is, you know, things that would make them really easy to stab. You are, incidentally, not very easy to stab since you have a whopping 4 goddamn features dedicated to make you more difficult to pin down than figuring out if that teasing banter you had with your friend actually hurt their feelings or not. You can dodge when it's your turn, dodge when it's not your turn, dodge a giant ball of fire, and even dodge having to pay the bill on a first date. One especially unique trait of the rogue is their exclusive language, Thieves Can't. Thieves Can't what? I don't have the slightest clue, because it allows you to say a whole bunch of jargon that somehow translates into a completely different sentence. Timmy's having tea with the local blacksmith actually means let's go to the temple and steal some of the cleric's donations. Speaking of stealing, the thief archetype means you're especially fast at doing thiefy things, like picking locks, chugging potions, and hardcore parkour. Assassin makes your stabs extra stabby, and you can stab while disguising yourself as a child you saw who you can point to later and say they did it. Arcane Trickster basically turns you into a bard, except less talented or attractive, and allows you to hocus pocus somebody's wallet from 3 miles away. Mastermind is straight up Sherlock Holmes, complete with the assholery and catchy theme music. Swashbuckler won't stop bugging people to 1v1 them, and Scout, which is yet another better alternative to Ranger. Your job is to make sure everybody knows how much better you are at doing everything, because when the going gets tough, you know the party's going to turn to you one day and ask you to please pick the lock on the door to the king's castle because the bard accidentally kicked the guard in the genitals trying to seduce them. And you'll gladly show them all the skills you've learned from growing up in such a harsh and unforgiving environment that was once your home, forcing you to learn questionable means and morally ambivalent beliefs in order to survive. Just try not to cut yourself on that edge while you're at it. And now you know how to play rogue, you're welcome.
Hi, I'm Sam from Black Cats Gaming. We're a tabletop role-playing game company based in England, and we're kickstarting our first game, The Spy Game, which is a modern 5e action espionage RPG. In The Spy Game, you get to peer behind the curtain of society into the world of the agencies and take your place as a world-class spy. Together with your crew of con artists, infiltrators, and hackers, you can take on global threats or become one yourself. The Spy Game is being developed using the 5th edition Open Gaming License for a modern take on a familiar fantasy gaming experience. You can choose from a whole host of new classes, like the Face, the Infiltrator, the Hacker, or the Technician, and you can use some incredible new gadgets, weapons, and equipment. The Quick Start Guide is available now on drivethrurpg.com. We've almost finished our alpha version of the game, and we plan to release the beta version of the game to backers as soon as the Kickstarter is over, so that the whole community can get involved and influence the development of the final game. We're starting the production of this game from the ground up, so please lend us your support and follow the Black Cats into a world of international espionage and adventure.
While anxious wives paced widow's walk, scanning the horizon, watching the sea, the warmth of the fireside guided their creaking ships past the ever-present lighthouses safely into port. Today as yesterday, these sentinels of safety bring gladness to the hearts of the homing mariners.
Cronkwall. Before the break, your astral projection, your psychic projection, was wandering through an enchanted mist in an alien jungle far from Balic, hidden somewhere in the Salt Sea. There, in the mist, you were separated from your friends, and you saw ghostly figures, faces of turtles that you know. You followed those figures as the mist receded further and further, and as you catch up to the edge of that mist, the figures turn towards you, and there's a certain sadness in their eyes for a few moments. You can hear the song of the clan's matriarchs drifting through the fog. And it's a song that you know. It's a song of mourning, full of loss and mourning for stories that are gone now. Those figures are continuing to recede into that mist, but you're close.
I think he continues. If we're focused on Kronqual for a moment, I think we see his expression has softened. He usually has like the corners of his jaw are usually turned up in a sort of a smile, representing a smile. But I think in this case we see it a little bit more relaxed, and as his browless forehead furrows in regret, I think.
And as you feel regret, the world around you responds to those feelings. The sad look in those turtles' eyes as they fade further and further into that mist begins to take on a more accusatory expression. There's a hardness to their features. And the mist pulls back. All of a sudden, it's slowly roiling away, and then it pulls back quickly. When it does, you find yourself on the island that you called home. The island that was home to your people. And it is now exactly like it was the last time you saw it, before you took your little skimmer and sailed away across the Silt Sea, before you met Laguerre and came to Balic. I want to know, as the mist recedes, what does Cronkwall see? What does he smell?
I think we see maybe like a clearing in this jungle, or at least a clearing in the space. And there are these tapestries of large leaves, different colors, kind of maybe woven and representing some sort of mosaic, but through this woven style of this Athasian vegetation. And these tapestries act also as, I think, the sloping roofs of different lean-tos and hovels and things like that. There are several turtle, maybe families or what have you, near. There are some that have long, maybe bone-like trident, or a spear that has been maybe a large tooth of some creature. And I think as we wander through, or as we see the space, we start to see there are these holes, very smooth holes throughout, like pocking the ground. And within them store some goods and things like that, maybe things that you would store things that you would use like a vase for, things like that. Maybe there's like grain and stuff in a hole here, and there is some seed maybe here, and maybe we see several of these some very smooth holes with different vegetation. Maybe someone's farming something or doing some sort of agricultural work. As we pass through here, we see maybe these hanging, much like his staff. I think actually a lot like his staff, though the hanging bit, though some are woven intricacies of some artisanal make, but then some are dream catchers, but most of them are these like a woven net or a woven like a sphere, like a wicker sphere, and within is several fireflies or larger like torch bug flies that are kind of glowing in the area. I think as we walk the path too, we are introduced to a big mouth of one of these big holes, these of this area, and within there is sort of like a path going down, spiraling into the shadow of this hole. And within, we could see maybe the pallid surfaces of many, many eggs. I think as we wander through, I think Cronkwall smells the fresh cut leaves. I think maybe they are changing the tapestries, these roofs. I think they change them with the season. Usually they are changed and changed out to a new story or something that someone has brought back to the little commune. And as he wanders through, I think he's just in awe. He's happy to experience this again, but he's also very sad because there's a bit of remorse and a bit of mourning as he hears a song, a guttural song of mourning, probably play through his projection right now through the space.
And it does feel like that song is no longer coming from without, but from within, like you're hearing it from within yourself. It's Cronkwall, you're walking this path through your home. You're smelling the fresh cut leaves. That smell of fire and smoke comes back too. It's like a long shadow passing, like when the clouds overtake the sun. And as that shadow passes over the little village here, things change. That great hole in the center of your town, around it it's like a footprint, but by a foot much larger than any creature you've ever seen, with 3 claw-like imprints for fingers and a long jutting claw-like imprint on the far side of it. And your vision of the huts changes. They're no longer hanging their artisan pieces, but they're burnt, ashes, rubble, and that ash is swirling about you. Everything changes to how you last saw this place right before you left. You can see those great imprints in the dirt, those great footsteps.
I think he still is humming, now audibly humming the Song of Mourning. He's never really been great at singing, but he still, I don't think he realizes that he's singing it. As he inspects and watches this replay again in this dream, in this definite nightmare. Yeah, I think we see him approach the hole, the large hole with the eggs, and I think with his webbed clawed hand holds his mouth and his nose, not due to necessity or any sort of survival tactic or anything. There's no toxic smell or anything like that. He's a turtle, he can hold his breath, but he does it out of, I think, dread, disgust, and shock as he looks into the hole to hopefully assess and see if any of the eggs have survived this.
The last time you were here, did Cronkwall go to the hole? Could he bring himself to look in before?
I don't think he could. Not before.
You look down into the hole and see eggs smashed, but not all of them. There's one just up against the side, against just the edge, the corner, and it's the shells that still hold.
He starts to descend into the smooth pathway, this spiraling path down into this very well intricately made hole. And I think he smells the destruction and the steam wafting through this clay-like maw, probably not a smell that we would all enjoy, but also I think the steam is not from any of the humidity nearby, from any of the plants. I think the humidity is from coming within the contents of the hole, which is it's a lot for him, but he still presses through.
That steam is not that much unlike the steam that hung over the swamp that you came from. And that egg is right there. How large is a turtle egg? How do you imagine it looks?
I would say the size of a beach ball, maybe? Maybe.
Do you think it has any special coloring or anything unique in that way?
I think it's very sphere. Like, it's not like oblong like a chicken's egg or anything like that. It's just like a beach ball sized pearl, but it does have the very flat qualities that an eggshell would have. But I think we also see maybe a thin layer of silt. Maybe it's, and that usually just coats the egg. Yeah, I think that's what it looks like.
It looks like it should right now. It looks like a healthy egg, just like it should.
Kronqual reaches out. He drops the stick that he's been carrying, and reaches out and tries to hold it, at least touch it.
unlike other things that you've held in your hands or touched since whatever is happening started, you feel the warmth, the egg in your hand, as though we're really, really there. And you feel its weight.
I think he takes a moment, and before he picks it up, he just has both of his claws on it, and he just kind of rubs the top of it for a moment, and then I think he just breaks down and cries. I think for a moment, maybe as if like the sun has clouds or something passing, like clouds are passing between the sun and the space that I'm in. Shadow dims. The area dims for a moment. I think in that, Kronqual tries to get it back together, because he knows if he gives into too much emotion in one of these projections, he can start manifesting the worst, and he needs to stay in control in these, no matter whatever he's experiencing. Even if he is experiencing or walking through a memory, he still has to be he still needs to be in control. Otherwise, he'll lose his way, as a lack of a better term, and he will be lost. And he's seen that happen before to those who have gone through this experience. I think he hefts the egg and then tries to waddle his way up to the surface of this hole.
I will protect.
You can feel just a little bit of movement within the egg. After you speak, you climb back up around the spiral to the top of this hole. And you can see beyond the shore of your island, amidst this blowing storm of sand, a silhouette of a creature. It looks like a large lizard, a mountain-sized lizard, with a triangular head, a great tail, 2 large legs and 2 smaller but still massive arms, just at the edge of your vision, almost like when you saw the other turtles at the edge of the mist. You continue to step up to the top of this hole, back to your tribe, and as you do, Cronkwall, you ascend out of the water of the swamp that you were in. It's almost like you're breaking up for air, but you don't have to breathe. You're not really there. It's not your real body. You're just coming back up to the top. And there's still a low hanging mist all around you, those weeping willow trees with the purple flowers, and the sounds of the swamp return to you in that moment. And that egg is still in your hands.
Right. I will introduce you to my friends. I am Kronqual. Kronqual is I.
And he's going to make his way up to I think where his friends would go. I think he lost sight of them crossing a creek when the fog rolled in.
You were in the swamp, yeah. You were behind them, and then the fog rolled over, and you got lost. But as this mist is starting to recede, and you're back up on top, it's now just like a low-hanging mist, like waist level, as you stand over the water, and you're looking around this swamp. You see Merula running over the top of the surface, crosses your path, and continues to run. And Laguerre is right behind them, not running, but maybe like power walking to keep up.
Akasha, Merula, friends.
Let's go to each of you, and let's start with Laguerre. You would hear Cronkwall speak out of the side of your vision, over to your right. As Laguerre's keeping up, what are they doing right now? What are they focused on?
At the moment, she's just following closely behind Merula still. I'm guessing that she's caught up by now to her and her run. So she's in a light jog. And as the situation is happening around her, she hears Kronqual, and she just starts going, turtle, 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 turtle. The turtle. We have to go to the turtle.
What about Merila, as she's running and past Kronqual's vision? How would Kronqual see them?
I don't know how the magic and the memory and all of that are still affecting me, but presumably?
Yeah, it's as if they were feeling almost like they were being chased by the memory, right?
Do I have any level of awareness of hearing Kronqual or anything like that?
I think maybe. Do you think they would?
I suppose that really rather depends on the fog, but if Kronqual as a word were in my awareness, it's one of those things that starts to crack open a dream, almost, an out of context term. So I would slow up a little bit and tack toward that, I think.
I am a bit far behind.
You see he's carrying, I think, under one of his arms, the beach ball sized sphere of ivory or so.
Total. Kronqual.
Turtle.
Kronqual is I lost you back there.
I'm so sorry. I think the fog did something to me. What is that you're carrying?
This. Oh, it's still here. I deviated from the way and got lost in a memory. And I brought back this. I'm unsure. It still feels warm.
And pardon me, it's just... Is that a turtle egg?
Yes, I must protect.
It's shaped like a spear.
It is mine to protect. It is my duty.
He's got the spirit. Yeah, he's got the spirit.
can you bring it with you up to that?
All right. I guess I can.
He tries to pick up the pace.
You're able to catch up. Merula, your memory of running out of your house, it's still clinging to you just a little bit. But you're aware of where you are. And that mist continues to recede further and further away from the edge of the swamp. And as it does, it's like that memory is just kind of slipping slowly off of you. The gray steam pulls back and you're together again, the three of you. And just beyond is a series of crumbling stone steps that lead up. Not high, just up out of the swamp. And beyond the swamp rises marvelous buildings crafted from these sparkling red stones. The shapes of the buildings, the sizes are large and the shapes are odd. They're smooth, without corners, spiraling structures that are unlike any that you would have seen in Balic or Kronkwall, any that you would have seen in your journeys. There's windows of different sizes, all circular. Most of the city that's sort of revealed to you as the mist recedes has collapsed into rubble, and that white lichen from the swamp has sort of covered everything here. And on the far side of that ruined city is a great crimson pyramid. At its flat peak, you can see just the glowing of an eerie golden sphere of light, this sort of beacon in the early morning.
Either of you ever heard of a place like this?
This is foreign to me. This red mud has been molded to be a structure. It seems several structures.
Well, you really have to admire the architecture, Akasha says as she straightens up and puts her dolls into her pockets.
I want to know too, as she's straightening it up and she's putting the dolls in her pockets, is there like a visible facial change? Like, is there anything else that they would notice immediately changes about her in that moment?
Aside from standing up more straight and taking on more of a regal stance, her voice gets a little bit more bass and she becomes more concise. She starts to make more sense. She's kind of coming into the surroundings and taking things a little bit more seriously. And they can hear that kind of change in her tone.
Do you know anything about this kind of architecture, my lady Akasha?
Do I?
I would let you roll me. Let's see. I would let you roll either a history check or an arcana check. One or the other. With different information.
It would be a 17.
Was it arcana or history for you?
That was history.
History? So historically, this isn't, the general architecture of all of the major city-states, because they're all very, very specific and unique. They all have their own culture and their own identity, and architecture is a big, big part of that. So you can immediately tell that this isn't architecture that came or was inspired by any of the city-states of the Tablelands. The stone itself doesn't strike you as being any kind of stone that you've ever learned about. So even with the 17, I think probably the most striking thing that I can tell you is that this place feels alien to anything you've studied.
It's absolutely impressive. I've never seen anything like it. Merula, have you... Are you okay? You've got this... But, never mind that. Look at this. It's just beautiful.
It certainly is that, if terribly strange, unusual.
Would you like to go and explore? Cautiously, of course.
Of course, cautiously, my Lady Akasha. Kronqual?
Be careful.
Thank you, Cronkwall.
I will protect.
Merula, you go up. Are you still attempting to be stealthy at this point, or are you just drawn forward?
I would like to just move forward at this point.
Absolutely.
If there's some reason to assume there's an active threat nearby, I might be more cautious, but right now I'm in these ruins. And they're terribly interesting.
And you can tell now as you're stepping up into the ruins that the swamp, as you kind of look back, you can see some of the rocks sticking up out of the swamp actually appear like they might have been structures or parts of structures before, that maybe this city was even larger than what it is now at one time. And you move through the streets, which are paved with the same sparkling red stone as the buildings themselves. You can see the crumbled structures, and the few that remain, they have doors, or what look like doors, but no handles, no visible hinges, and the streets just kind of stretch and twist on in strange geometric shapes. You might be more used to streets kind of being on an almost grid-like system for the most part, but this is more like the maze in Balic, where who knows why they would have designed the streets the way they did. And you find yourselves all in these ruins. You could explore some of the crumbled ruins. You could approach one of the still standing structures, or you could move towards the center of the city, beyond which, at the end of the city, lies that great pyramid, which continues to grow as you get closer to it.
If the way is guiding us here and through this path, then there must be a reason. We ought to see something. What draws you near?
As he speaks to everyone else.
Where would you like to go?
I guess we'll start with the door.
Of the structure?
No, of the other structure.
Oh.
Yes, the structure that's directly in front of us.
Oh, all right. Very well.
And Kronkwall makes his way towards the entrance of this large structure.
One of the buildings in the city, or towards the pyramid itself?
I think towards the pyramid, or at least he walks towards the pyramid. I don't know how far it is from us. How far is it from us?
I mean, it's just a walk through the city. It's a walk, but it's not anything compared to what you've already walked tonight.
Yeah.
Merula is goal-oriented. They are absolutely cutting their eyes toward the pyramid.
You can all roll me perception checks.
17.
14.
19.
It's pretty good perception checks. So I'll say that you all begin to notice as you move further and further through the city that some of the structures are entirely ruined, entirely collapsed. Some of them are half collapsed. All of the still standing structures' doors are entirely shut, but they still have windows higher up. And you begin to become aware of eyes in those shadows, not normal sized eyes, bestial eyes. Occasionally you'll see the head of a beast from the wilderness, stretch out of a window, or you'll see the shape of one shifting between two ruins. And the wild has reclaimed this place. Nothing is attacking you, but you're also not putting your nose in any of the layers here. You're moving through the center of the city, but you are very aware that there is teeming life all around you, all different kinds of life. And as you reach the center of the city, next to a crumbling, dried up statue, a humanoid giant beside the statue is kneeling. He's alive. He's wearing gray robes, not much else, just tattered robes with a hood up over his head. And he's kneeling beside the body of a half-giant, a female half-giant who wears a little more intricate, also tattered robes. You can sort of see as you approach that her corpse is decayed. It's likely been decaying for some time. And the male giant kneeling beside her is gripping her bony hand between the palm of his two much, much larger hands.
What was he holding again? I'm sorry.
He's holding the hand of a half-giant woman, so still much larger than you, but half-giants, are more common. Full giants are not common in civilized places.
There is someone here.
Yes, I see him. There's a lot of vegetation around here, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah, it's the jungle.
I'd like to get a few flowers together quickly before I get much closer to this display.
And they're exotic blooms, mostly purple, but all different colors.
I figure lightning wouldn't strike twice in a day. This is probably a giant and not a tree. I would like to slowly walk forward, not to surprise the giant in any way, and set the flowers down at the feet of the half-giant woman.
I don't want you to have to be the one to tell him, but I think she's dead.
It could be a tree lady. Be careful.
I'll be careful.
You take the flowers closer, and you can see a little bit more of his face beneath the hood. The giant has a sort of simian-shaped bone structure and pale skin. He isn't wearing any clothing besides a loincloth and the tattered cloak, the wrinkled hood pulled over his skull. And you can see his skin is craggy with age, his eyes obviously pained. And his mouth is wide open, just sort of his jaw dropped, showing a pair of these bestial incisors. He sees you approach out of the corner of his eyes, then looks back down to the hand, and he's breathing heavily, slowly, staring down at the remains of this half-giant that's obviously been dead for some time.
So I will set the bouquet down by her and keep a respectful distance and try to gauge the reaction. Just try to understand what's going on.
You can see his nose kind of crunch up and he sniffs the air. He moves and stretches a hand down, just 2 large fingers to pluck up those flowers. And he raises them in front of his nose and just smells them a little bit, and then sets them down on top of the half-giant woman, very slowly, sets her hand down against the sparkling red stone of the street, and turns his head to you and just kind of cocks it to the side. He looks confused.
I look to her and just pat the body gently, as if patting a person resting, and just bow my head a little, gestures. Make myself very small, very obedient. Not trying to start anything, just trying to honor this person who's important to this being a little bit. I know what it's like.
He looks away from you as you back off again and back down to the body, and he does the same. He almost mirrors your gesture where he pats the body very, very gently with his large hand. And then, with a little bit of a rumble from his chest, he says, "Who you?"
I am Merula of House Akasha. I'm traveling with my companions, Kronqual and Lady Akasha.
Hello.
We're going there. And I point toward the pyramid.
He notices now Cronkwall and Akasha there, just by turning his head a little bit to the side. He raises his hand very slowly, again mirroring this time Cronkwall, but that confusion lingers in his eyes. I, Brogma, Merati's guardian.
It's nice to meet you. What happened to Meriti?
We live here, peace. Mirates, giants, many. Now only Brogma. Things from pyramid come. Not right things. Not from world.
That must have been terribly frightening. When?
You can tell he's thinking about that question really hard, and then he looks up to the sky, which is already orange with the glow of day. More moons than fingers I have. Not many more.
I understand. What happened when the things from the pyramid came?
We protect Mirates. She make island full of life, beauty. Things from pyramid make us see things, make us do things.
The things from the pyramid. Do any of them live in the swamp now?
They everywhere now. Small, slither, weak body like you, but strong mind.
We hear this back there? Sorry.
Yeah, his voice carries.
Okay.
Do you know how Marites did those things? Made this place so beautiful.
He looks back down to Merides and gives her another pat, again mirroring the exact motion you did, just with a much larger hand. Merides' great druid. Power of water. Power of earth. Protect this land. We protect her.
The Guardian as well.
As he starts to waddle a little bit closer.
I also protect.
As he's still holding the egg.
He stretches his jaw, and again, his incisors are large and sharp. And as he sort of works his jaw a little bit, watching your approach and looking to Akasha, he says, "Why Rogmar not see faces? You faces blurry like sand, wind."
Oh. I think it could be because we are here because of the way. We are riding the winds of consciousness, so we may then experience the world in an alternate.
He reaches his hand up to scratch the back of his neck. Obviously trying to think hard about what you're saying, but you don't think he understands.
You are to protect these lands.
I am alone now. I do not have power. Brogmar wish he were with friends. But they all gone now.
As he looks towards his friends.
I'm on a projection. I am walking the way, and there is purpose for it. I think I know why.
I think he moves the egg from, I think it was probably resting between both shells, and he kind of jostles it free as it swings forward in front of him.
Brogmar is your name. Brogmar, this is from my people.
He gives the egg.
I am not worthy guardianship of a hatchling. For I have to protect my friends. Here.
You can see him staring down at the little egg in the palm of his hand. And without pushing down, he cups it, his top hand over top of it. And he looks confused for a moment, and then there's a light of understanding in his eyes. And you think he smiles. It's a strange expression on his face. And he says, Brogmar, make new friend. Brogmar protect.
Brogmar protect.
Without another word, he turns around and steps back a bunch. Probably, steps back towards the brush again and then turns back around, and I think this time you see maybe a tear going down his wide jawed face.
You're a good egg, Kronqual.
I'm no egg. I am fully grown. But thank you. I, as much as anyone else, could be better. Thank you.
I turn back to Brogmar. Are you going to be alright here on your own while you're protecting your new friend? Is there anything we can do to help?
Will you visit Brogmar again?
If it is within my power, if I know how to do it, yes, of course.
Brogmar, alone now, not alone, has new friend. Brogmar, not die. Things not let him die. He stays here.
They don't let you?
No. Only Brogmar.
Well, it's not going to be only Brogmar very soon, and so you'll have to get quite settled. There's a hatchling on the way, and all of that. You'll be alright.
He gives you that smile again. You'd think it's a smile at least, and there's just a flash of brightness in his eyes. He looks up to the pyramid beyond the edge of the city and says, maybe you find something there. Maybe it is pyramid brings you. It very, very old. Very old.
We will go take a look, and you have your mission to protect.
Brogmar protect.
Will protect.
He waddles closer and then puts his hand on his shoulder? Is he standing?
He's kneeling, but I
Shoulder.
think even with his kneeling, because giants are so tall, it's probably like his elbow.
Right. Okay, and he just rests his claw there. He nods. And he probably puts his other hand on the egg. And then he nods. And he turns around and he walks towards the pyramid and tries not to look back.
I follow after Kronqual very quickly. Are you going to be all right?
Me?
Yes, that can't be easy.
No. It's not. But I would be a fool if I was to think I could take it back with me to Balic. I think it deserves a full life in a city that needs to be reborn.
I guess his webbed clawed hand just drags across some of the clay brick. Just the low, dull scraping sound of his claw as it drags across.
I have my duty now. And if we do meet them again, I will bring stories for the young.
That's very good of you and very brave.
Thank you.
And Merula turns their hand outward and sort of keeps it just a little outstretched, an offer to hold a hand if Kronqual wants to take it.
Kronqual takes it. Yeah, it takes him a little bit to understand what it is that you're reaching for. I think after a while he realizes that he just clasps over your hand. I think like your hand comes out and he just goes just over with the giant webbed mitt.
Thank you, friend. There is Akasha.
From behind, you hear Akasha just kind of opine. I mean, it's pretty irresponsible to just give someone an egg that's on a adventure. Like, you obviously appear to be on an adventure, so why would someone just hand you an egg? It's just bad planning. But yeah, that was sweet.
The giant is sort of standing, just kneeling there, watching you go. He's got the egg in one hand, cupped, still kneeling by the fountain. The three of you are continuing on to the pyramid, is that correct? Okay. You move through the rest of the city, which is just like the rest, mostly ruins, beasts, just in the nooks of buildings that have half collapsed and the windows up above of full buildings, strange writing on the walls in a language that isn't recognizable. Then you get to the base of the pyramid itself. As you approach, who's in the front? Who's leading this walk? Merula, as you approach, dozens of small snakes slither away from the base of the pyramid, moving from what looked like just a pile of leaves, but wasn't, around your feet and then out, dispersing towards the jungle.
Hate that!
The pyramid beyond is not crafted from stone. I think that would be immediately recognizable once you get close, after the snakes leave you. it's not from the same material as the ancient city. It's crafted from some sort of metal. You can tell by the way that it's glinting. You can tell by the fact that it's so rusted. In fact, that's why maybe it's red, is that it's rusted over time, so much time. And steam is rising from the smooth steps of that pyramid. You can see burned into those steps hieroglyphs, script written in a language that you haven't seen before, that looks like maybe that language you glanced at a couple of buildings in the city itself. And you're looking up, and this is a tall pyramid that reaches to a flat top, 77 long steps up stairs to a flat surface bathed in that sort of beacon, that otherworldly golden light.
What is this rock?
This could sound absolutely ridiculous because this structure is quite frankly massive, but it seems like metal. I've never seen this much metal in any one place, but I mean, it does look just like it, doesn't it?
Who would have this much metal?
Ancient wealth, I suppose.
Generational wealth.
Must be important. Climb.
Is there anything you want to investigate, any of you, or do you want to climb, or is there anything you want to do in particular right now as you're sort of gathered here staring up at this thing?
I'd love to try. I'm sure I have not the slightest idea what these hieroglyphics are going to say, but I would like to at least maybe try to fix them in my mind. Perhaps I could try to recreate them later, ask someone about them, anything, just like those details of a dream you try to hold on to.
Absolutely. Let's have you make a check now, and any check you make in the future, this is how I like to do memory, so make a check now, and any check you make in the future will be weighted based on that check to remember specific things. So let's call it I guess a history check makes the most sense here.
13.
Okay, that's pretty good. Let me make a note of that. You stare at those hieroglyphs in the ancient script, trying to remember the strange patterns, because they're not familiar patterns. Everything about them is odd, but they are geometric. So there's at least, pieces of them that you can put together to try to remember them. What would anybody else like to do?
I think Kronqual's just waiting. He's excited to. He may be scanning the area, keeping his head on a swivel, but also he's pretty eager to climb up to the top of this. He's super interested in exploring right now, and just going for this ride. I mean, he's gone through so much already in just this vision that he's happy to just let everyone's, if this is like a way walk, or a walk of the way that he's been calling it, is this, he's like, okay, next step is we'll get resolution for everyone else, and then we will be back. So he's in for the ride now. His mentality is like, I've done what I've completed what I needed to do. Now I'm here to protect and make sure I can walk everyone else through whatever it is they have to do. So he's, I think, just waiting and watching Merula as they are doing some inspections, and also whatever Akasha is doing as he sort of waits by the stairs.
And what is Akasha doing? at the base of the pyramid.
Kind of just feeling around on the surface, just kind of amazed that, and just do I still get a firm grip on it in this, like, am I now able to, like...
Yeah, make me an intelligence saving throw.
$16.
So you can touch it, and as you do, unlike other things that you've touched since coming to this island, you get heat from the metal surface. Because it's metal, perhaps it retains heat. So it's not scorching, but it is noticeable. You feel that in your hands. You feel this sort of shiver. It feels like a shiver going down your spine, but you don't have a spine, not really. Right now, what it is your fingers, your skin distort just a little and then solidify a little again. And when that happens, Akasha, there's a presence there in your mind's eye as you touch the pyramid. It's a series of shifting stars that vaguely resemble a humanoid skull, squirming through your memories, your thoughts. I think as a fairly well-educated individual, even though you're not a trained scion, you're not trained in the will, you understand it. You can feel that presence moving through your mind, and then a voice to follow, invasive. All who come to this place, all who ascend the steps, all who leave this place again, each gives something of themselves in return. What do you have to offer?
What do you accept?
It must be something true.
Do you accept knowledge? Or emotion?
Go on.
I live with an incredible amount of guilt. And I don't get to really talk about it, so this is actually nice.
What is it you regret?
An accident.
Show me. And you can feel that presence. It's like it's looking through still images of memories in your mind, like it's pulling photographs from your mind, trying to find the moment that you're speaking of.
And in her mind, suddenly it flashes and you see the captain going down with the Akasha, and it just keeps replaying and replaying in her mind, and it's just that one moment watching him disappear into the silt.
And Akasha, you see it too, as the presence in your mind sees it. And you hear a sound that's not real. It's in your mind, but it sounds like it's garbled. It sounds like eating. Roll me an insight check.
$11.
Beyond the moving stars that vaguely resemble the shape of a skull, you see the silhouettes in your mind's eye of people. It's hard to make out their faces. It's not real, but they have faces. And you realize that this voice isn't the voice of a single entity. It's the voice of many entities working together. They're pulling those memories out of your mind, and then it speaks again. Do you want us to take this from you?
Yes. Take it.
And as soon as you say it, you don't remember saying it. As soon as you say it, you don't remember that moment where that tentacle picked Captain Tanyan up off the deck of the ship, where he looked over his shoulder and reached out in your direction as you kept your back. It's gone. That memory is gone. You remember Cronkwall. You remember the beast, vaguely. You remember the voyage out and the return. But Tanyan is gone. And then you hear that voice again. You may proceed. And that presence pulls away, pulls out of your mind, and you are there at the base of the tower, your hand still touching the surface of the pyramid.
Will you let my friends pass as well?
Roll me a persuasion check.
$8.
All who come to this place, all who ascend the steps, all who leave this place again, each of them gives something of themselves in return. What do you have to offer? And this time, all three of you hear that voice, see those dancing stars.
You could have just said no.
Let's do this one at a time. Whoever wants to go next. It's Cronkwall.
I think Kronqual just kind of... I think he looks around at everybody but stays silent. And maybe he steps off of I feel like he was had one foot on the stair ready to go up. And then he just kind of adjusts and maybe takes a couple steps back.
As you take a couple of steps back, that prodding presence, it doesn't go away. It's still there with you. You're trained enough that you can feel it, and trained enough that you know that it's not a single scion that's doing this.
I must. What do you accept?
Something true.
All right.
And I think you see he closes his eyes, and I don't know if anyone else is taking on this projection. I think maybe if I can I project this so everyone can see it?
What you're seeing in your head, your memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you have that ability, right?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, okay. So I think you see Kronqual close his eyes, and maybe when he does, a ripple effect just like blows out from the epicenter of where he's standing, and as this rippling happens, the landscape changes to a clearing. There's smoke in the distance. There's a tattered tapestry, like the tapestry roofs of these small hovels, tattered and scorched. And you see maybe a close-up of one of these holes, and inside is charcoal and maybe some of the chitinous materials of some of the bones and shells of some of the fallen within this hole. Clawed hands picking up the charcoal and these remains and moving them into this dark black mud into another hole, a mixing, a sloshing of the of a stick, and the stick gets drawn out, and the camera, I think, follows the point of this stick to the skin and the scales of Cronkwall as he is etching these flame tattoos across his scaly hide, and maybe you see a droplet of water land next to on his arm next to where he is tattooing, and then brought back here. And then he sniffles and wipes the tear off his face.
You can feel those memories being pulled in different directions within your mind, even as you're projecting them, and Akasha and Merula can see this memory like as if it were a projector screen just in the middle of the jungle here.
Running around them, yeah.
And when the memory ends, roll me an insight check, Kronkwall.
That's going to be an 18.
The voices speak, and their voices you can see now behind those stars, which are just a smokescreen of the way the version they wanted to present of themselves, the bodies, the faces. There's elves and dwarves and humans and moles, a thry-cream, a Terry, ratfolk, and you catch the face of one person you recognize right as the voice says, "Do you want us to take this from you?"
No.
In the face.
He just immediately, he's kind of horrified with that.
No. But it's true.
They don't seem disturbed or upset with your answer. The face that you recognize speaks. They all speak, but that's the one that you're focused on. They say, "You may proceed." And then those faces fade, and that face was the woman, the human hooded woman that you saw in the alleyway. The one that, with her mind, could set her ropes on fire. It was with the others, the one who got away. You see that face there, and then they're all gone. That presence pulls out of your mind. You retain your memory. I don't know if it feels differently to him in the future when he recalls that memory, but he retains it. Merula, you are offered the same that all who come to this place, who ascended steps, who leave this place, each of them gives something of themselves. What do you have to offer?
Merula's very young. They haven't accumulated a lot of experiences, so must have been big. Merula walks up just a little ways away, just to be a little, maybe farther from Akasha and Cronkwall. Try to get some measure of privacy. I'm not sure how this works, but I saw what Kronqual's memory was, even if I didn't see Akasha's, so I'm just a little nervous, but I was the youngest. I was the bastard, and no one was ever supposed to pay attention to what I was doing. And so I learned to do some very wicked things, and I don't want to give it up. And the memory is of just being a little outside of my family's estate, meeting with a secretive person and tying the first knot in my bracelet as I call the bird down to me.
Roll me an insight check. You can feel that presence.
Natural 20.
You can feel that presence moving around inside your mind, excited by the memory you chose, excited by what you shared, excited that you consider it wrong or wicked and don't want to give it up. All of that is very interesting, and you, even though you're not trained in psionics, you can tell that it's feeding as much off of the memory as it is off of the decision that you've made. And after lingering for a moment, you see the shapes of many people, just their faces barely lit in your mind's eye. People who are dressed in garb that looks like it might belong to other city-states, but most of them are dressed like Balicans. And then those presences fade out of your mind. They allow you to hold on to that memory. And whether that's different for Merula now, I don't know. But as they retract, their voices speak as one. You may proceed.
Just reorganize myself. I look over toward Akasha and Kronkwall.
Everything all right?
Yes. They said I could proceed. Shall we?
As well. We shall. Are you ready, Akasha?
I'm absolutely ready. Let's go.
All right. I must say, though I did see in my conversations with the chorus in my mind, I saw many faces, and one of them, I could not avert my gaze, was the lady in the alleyway with the fiery ropes back in Balic. I bring that up because I do not know how we got here, but I do understand who may have brought us here.
Akasha gets a panicked look on her face, and she looks at Cronkwall and says, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Who was it? Who do you think it was?
There was a lady we met in the alleyway.
There was no alleyway. We did not meet a woman. It must be this place and its effect on you that's making you say such untoward things.
Oh, right.
You mean the alley where the bodies were? Not far from where I met you?
Looks at Akasha. Looks back at Merula.
What really happened there?
Looks at Akasha.
Have you ever heard of the phrase, secrets make friends?
No.
You should.
Merula sits back a little bit and clearly does not understand this at all.
So I can tell them. Okay.
Was it to do with those rogue mages you were telling me about?
Must be.
It's exactly what it was.
Okay, I'm glad we're talking now. Yes, so there was a lady,
And he starts to get a little bit excited because now he can actually say the story he's been wanting to. So he thinks that this is his cue to spill the beans.
There was a lady that scurried off after making a threat towards me and Akasha. So she ran, and for some reason I can't get her face out of that vision, which reminds me that I'm not the only one who walked the way.
And that's all you remember from that time. Isn't it?
There are some other details.
Merula starts moving up the stairs. I think I have reached enough awkward and obvious lying for this particular moment.
The stairs are hot, and steam rises from them. And just like with Akasha, Merula, they can feel the heat for the first time since they've come to this place. something about the structure. And at the pyramid's peak, after 77 long step up, you can see the giant dark sun rising in the distance. The gray mist doesn't reach all the way to the top, and the floor of the peak is covered in spotted white and green eggs, some of them larger than others. 3 in particular are very large. And in the center of the pyramid's platform is something like a door shaped, its frame like the upper half of a perfect circle. Knotted red metal forms that frame of the door, and many large gems are set out in about 1-inch increments around that frame. The gems seem to be constantly shifting color, never lingering on a single hue. And that bright golden light that you saw from below, even from the swamp, it spills out through that open doorway. It's not blinding. It's actually kind of calming.
I'd like to proceed through the doorway, if I can.
There's eggs up in here?
Oh yeah. Not turtle eggs.
Yeah.
They're
green,
like green and white, spotted.
White spotted eggs.
Anybody else doing anything as you reach the top?
I think Kronqual's going to inspect the eggs.
Okay.
See what that's all about. He's quite curious.
And Akasha?
Akasha pulls Merula to the side as Cronkwall is investigating the egg.
You try to head Merula off before they get to the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I let myself be pulled away, yes.
I'm so sorry about that earlier. I'm sure it sounded weird, terrible, a combination. Who knows? Some things are just personal, and that was a very hard day for me. So I just really would prefer not to talk about it if you don't mind, ever again.
I won't ask you about it anymore, my lady Akasha.
You are a delight.
Shall we see into this pyramid then, since we are in concordance?
And I grab their hand and say, "Friend, let us away."
Kronkwall, go ahead and give me an investigation check. Or I'll tell you what, I'll let you do investigation or nature, either one.
Oh my, I got a 14 on the die. Nature's 5, so 19.
These eggs, the fact that they're all different sizes is strange to you because they all have the same characteristics. Either they are green with white spots or white with green spots. There's many of them. It's sort of a nest, and the eggs sit in this sort of thin layer of mucus. The 3 of them that are largest are set out in all 3 corners of this top platform here, stuck into what looks like the shells of lesser eggs, built up into a little holder, a little nest around the larger eggs. And as you're kind of exploring, you don't recognize the species, but you recognize that it must be strange to have so many different sized eggs, and the 3 largest ones seem to be pulsing, like their shell isn't quite solid, but is something a little softer. Meanwhile, Merula and Akasha, after your conversation, you're standing right there in front of this door, and the light dims a little bit, or at least a trick of the eye allows you to see kind of through it. And looking out beyond that door is like looking into another world. Beyond is another pyramid, just like this one, but its metal is this shining, pristine golden color. Below the pyramid stretches a vast forest of brown bark trees and crimson leaves. In the distance, you can see a great ocean of crashing waves of water striking up against a beautiful shore. And in the strange light blue sky up above, very different from your sky, you see the giant dark sun, the same as yours, but in a different position. And in fact, you could see through the door the sun and see the sun over here as well at the same time. But what's most striking about the sky through the door is that dominating it, even larger than the sun itself, is a massive red sphere covered in drifting yellow clouds.
What?
What is this?
I have no idea. What in... Merula just looks back and forth between the two suns.
Merula, make me let's call it a history check again. I feel like this is another one of those astrological things.
14.
Okay. The larger sphere, it's not a sun. It looks like maybe a giant moon, but much, much larger than the moons Ral and Buffet that you've seen.
Have you ever heard of such a thing? A red moon?
Of a moon. Moon. No. Is this Balic?
Couldn't possibly be. I couldn't even recognize it. I mean, what even is that? What are waves? It doesn't even compute at a certain point. It does not compute.
I don't know.
So we're peering into a vista of a golden pyramid with a large planetoid in the sky.
Yeah. So imagine that it's like if you were looking through this portal, you could see the other half of the platform, except for through the portal. It's a golden platform with red jungles beyond instead of violent, red forests instead of violet jungles. Not the same kinds of trees. You can see those crashing waves of an ocean, which even Cronkwall in all of his journeys, I don't think he's probably ever seen anything resembling an ocean, a true ocean, water. And then that giant planetoid type body hanging in the sky, larger than the sun itself. And in dark sun, the sun is a massive part of the sky. That's how large this sphere is.
I don't know what this is.
All of you can go ahead and roll me perception checks.
Dirty
19.
20.
11.
Okay. We'll say that Kronqual and Merula, I think you notice it first, but all three of you will notice it. It's just a matter of how quickly you're staring through this portal, trying to figure out what's on the other side, what to make of it all. Your skin, or what's not your skin, begins to become like sand again. It's starting to fade away. You're starting to discorporate a little bit, and you get a little bit of a splitting headache, and you feel a loss of the ability to move. It's actually very similar to what you experienced the moment before you came to this place. And because the three of you are kind of gathered together, you're all able to see, at least out of the corners of your vision, that those 3 eggs at the top of the pyramid on the platform, those large eggs, they're beginning to peel, not crack, peel open.
The eggs are opening.
I want to try to move for them, maybe, if I still can.
Roll me an intelligence saving throw.
That's let's see, that's a rogue, so it's for a 9.
Okay. You start to move through the air, but because you're starting to discorporate and you've got this strange like pounding in the back of your skull kind of headache, you feel like you're moving through molasses. You're moving, but it's much, much slower than you want to be moving. Anybody else doing anything?
I think Kronqual's just observing. I mean, you said we're starting to turn into sand, sort of.
Right. It's like like what represented your bodies is beginning to fade away.
Yeah, and we've got a headache as well as a headache also is invading our space as we're trying to. Yeah, I think he's going to try to just ride this out and observe what he can. But I feel like he's felt this before, where he knows that it's probably all a part of the journey. So he's going to try to gather the information he can by just observing these eggs. I think he's more interested in the eggs than he is the portal.
Okay. And Akasha?
She just slowly starts approaching the egg that's in front of her, with their arms outstretched.
Yeah, make me an intelligence saving throw.
15.
You feel slow, like I described to Merula, like you're moving through molasses, but you actually move, you push past it, and you get, with your arms stretched out, to the egg that's closest to you. What's your intention here?
Just trying to grab one of the peels. Try to move the process along and see if I can get it to just show itself sooner.
Absolutely. And the other eggs are still peeling away slowly. It's like they're shedding layers of skin and layers of skin as you feel lighter on, not your feet, but in the air. And Akasha, you peel away layer after layer of this egg that you're in front of. Merula, you get to another one of the eggs with just enough time to do something. What are you doing?
Roughly the same idea. I want to see what's inside of them. Really, help them hatch.
So you do. You do as Akasha's doing, peeling away. And Akasha, your egg hatches first. A moment later, Merula's egg, and then the final egg that I think Cronkwall is probably just kind of watching. And within moments, you see coming out of this strange green slime that reminds you of the slime that was coming off of that tree in the jungle are 3 bodies. And Akasha, as you peel back that final layer, it's your face inside the egg. And Merula, as you peel back the final layer, it's Cronkwall's face inside the egg. No clothes, just a face, closed eyes. And Cronkwall, as that final egg sheds away the top layer and an arm comes out and another arm comes out and pushes up, you see coming out of the top of that egg Merula's face and Merula's body covered in that slime, its eyes closed. And then all at once, the 3 figures open their eyes, and all of you open your eyes at the same time, back in your beds, or where you were at the beginning of this night before you were taken to this island. The day has dawned. You remember everything. And that's where we'll end our story for tonight.
Ooh, rude. So rude.
Oh, my dude.
That was
Seeing the
cool.
like eyes pop in my head just like jacked me up, and I'm gonna have terrible nightmares. So thank you, Donovan.
Yeah, I'm gonna have nightmares of dark tree looming like that.
Yep.
That was just watching us as we go through the jungle.
Hate that.
Yeah, it was really, 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 really a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed this episode. Okay, awesome. Thank you all. I had such a blast tonight. Viewers, everybody watching this, whether it's live or on VODs, on YouTube or on Twitch, thank you for watching us, spending your time with us. We know your time is precious, and that you care enough about the story to watch it means a lot to us. So if you can, anything you can do to subscribe to us on YouTube or throw us a like, all of your support's been awesome. It's making this possible. Also making this possible, we have some really great mods in chat who take care of us and make sure we're doing okay, and make sure everybody else who's watching is having a good time. I am very appreciative of that, and our sponsors, We're Gaming and Level of Dice, for making the campaign possible to begin with. Oh yeah, I should mention this. I think we have a command for this. If you haven't already seen it, we have merchandise now. So we have some limited posters. We have stickers of our characters, which turn out really, really cool. So people have been asking, how can we support the show? Well, you can subscribe to us on Twitch. All of the subscriptions from Twitch will go to support the show and the cast, as does a thing when you're buying posters or anything we're selling for merchandise, that goes to support us. And then I believe, and I think Teal will say more about this maybe next week, but we're working on a thing for bits where any bits you give to us will be given to charity. So that's something else you can do. Lambert House. Lambert House is the charity. So Lambert House is a great charity that works with a lot of D&D, a lot of gaming, and we're really excited about that. So any bits you give us, they will be going directly to Lambert House. So those are ways that you can support us, but we're really just glad that you're here sharing your time with us. So I want to go around and do cast outros. Go around and just let us know, I don't know, something you're feeling, something you're thinking, and if you have anything cool coming up you want people to know about, let us know about that too. And let's start with Akasha. Let's start with Christina.
See me just like fall off my chair. It was
I
hilarious.
did.
You ain't got a lot to kick it. Hi, my name is Christina Ariel. This is Nico and Aya. I know, they make me happy. So this weekend I will be at PAX East in Boston. I have a panel from 11 to 12 in, my brain wants to say Trudgebull, like Mrs. Trudgebull and Matilda, but that's a lie. It's Albatross Theater. So maybe that was an albatross and I knew the whole time. Get it? Because they're an Albatross Theater. Okay, so yes, I will be on a panel with the other PAX East ambassadors about growing your community. So come be a part of my community and say hi if you're there. Other than that, I freaking love this so much. Like, it's so much fun, and like I feel like I'm always waiting because I know Don's gonna like with a like cliffhanger thing, and then it's like but then it happens and I'm like but yeah, that's how I feel. So I really enjoy this, and thank you guys for being here with us. Sam and Cord, you are amazing.
Right back at you. Oh my
Love
goodness.
all, folks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, also, side note, I feel like Akasha is slowly like, okay, I'm sorry, but like originally, like from concept to fruition, she's got like big Cordelia Chase energy, I'm realizing. And it's like everybody's like all emotional and she's just like, that's cool, but I don't know. I just had to say that. So
Cordelia Chase is a great character, and I'm really liking to see like the differences between Akasha and Laguerre, and looking forward to exploring that a little bit more. Loved all the role play tonight. I mean, I loved it, and I really liked the moment with Akasha right at the end, where she picked that memory, and she chose to get rid of it. I mean, that is you know, you got to be real feeling strong to make that choice. And I think that said a lot about her character. That was really interesting.
Why be tortured when you can be unburdened?
It's true. Yeah, it's true, but that's a hard choice to make though, right? I think for most people, you know, letting go is difficult. So to see Akasha make that choice, I thought it was beautiful.
I'm sure it'll have no negative repercussions whatsoever.
Right. Nothing ever does it? Let's go on to Sam. Sam, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. That was a blast. Loved all of that, except all the snakes and the lizards and the gross things. Woo! You can find me on Twitter at Tchaikovsky, CHAIKOVSKY. This week I am premiering 2 shows. Tomorrow on Q Times, QUEUE Times. We are premiering Battle Lords of the 23rd Century. It is the favorite game of B. Dave Walters. So I and the other members of the Uncommon Trust will be playing that for the next month on Wednesdays on Q Time. So go check that out, please. And on Thursday, our premiere that I announced last week was pushed. So Thursday, 5 p.m. PST. Please check out Twitch official D&D channel for A Darkened Wish, the streaming tie-in to the D&D comic from IDW, written by B. Dave Walters and drawn by Chris Fowler.
I just want to say too, the opportunity. So A Darkened Wish is really cool. If you like comics and you like fantasy, like check out the comic book, the series, because it's really cool. And the opportunity to play a canon character has got to be so cool, right? I mean, that is a cool thing that you're getting to do, and I'm really excited for you.
I'm really excited. It's good. It's real good. I'm having a lot of fun and a little bit of swashbuckle.
Awesome. My second favorite class. I love swashbucklers.
Good choices.
Same.
Yeah, and I loved Merula today. The role play, seeing the relationships between the characters build and grow and change. You know, for session 3, I don't know, like I couldn't ask for more. I had so much fun just watching you all play with each other tonight. So thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Record.
Thank you.
Hey,
We can do just a great storyteller and narrator and GM. Don, thank you, man. So yeah, I'm Cord. I'm Mythomatic. You can find me over on twitch.tv/Mythomatic. I do roleplay over there. I'm roleplaying in Star Citizen right now. I'm also editing off stream several different movies for the YouTubes. I also do a lot of roleplay over on Table Story as well, so you can check them out. Twitch.tv/Table Story, or you can, for sake of ease, you can just follow me on Twitter, Mythomatic, and you can see when I'm doing all these crazy things, and you can keep my schedule up to date and all that. Thank you everybody for being a part of this and role playing with me tonight. Thank you everybody watching VODs or right now in the chat. Thank you. Hi. You guys are all great, and thank you for supporting us. Thank you very much for subbing up too. We got if you guys are watching on YouTube, we just got affiliates, so thank you everybody who are coming at those subs tonight. You guys are great, and we thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Once again, I won't stop saying thank you because it's so much fun to play and to do this every week.
Thank you for hurting my feelings so good with Cronkwall and that egg. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry now.
Yeah, I really
again.
I'm one of the things I love doing is finding any excuse, whether it's magic or a flashback or anything, to get to go back and see a little bit of why characters are the way they are now, because people put a lot of heart into their backstories, and it's one thing to give them great hooks so that they can do things with their backstories that matter in the future. I think that's really important for games, but to actually, after they start to settle into their characters, get to go back and experience that in, one way or another, I think is really interesting. And we don't have turtles. They're not a canonical race in Dark Sun, but they should be. And I know Myth has done a lot of imagining about what a turtle society in Dark Sun would look like, and it's so vivid. I like it so much. I'm glad we got to see that today. I'm glad we got those moments. I know we'll be exploring more of that with other characters in the future, because it's just fantastic to play through and watch. And so thank you for being so willing and open to do that. I had a blast. Everybody, amazing tonight. As for me, let's see. I think there's a command up in chat, and see if I can remember it. I also GM, no, that was not the command, The Haunting of Seawall Orphanage on Fridays on Encounter Roleplay. That's a brand new horror game. It's very much inspired by small town horror and Stephen King. It's very much an improv and story focused game. It's very different than D&D, but it's something that I've been working on for a while, and I'm continuing to workshop it and play test it with a great group of players. And it's been a lot of fun. So if you like horror, that's Friday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check that out. I've got a Game of Thrones campaign that I've been playing forever on Thursdays with some of my buddies. To my friends at Follow Black Cats, that will be 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Thursday. And you can see me if you want. Be a really bad night, like really shouldn't have this job, not good at it, and way over their head, and probably like any moment that I survive, it defies expectations. So that's on Thursdays, but that's what's going on for me. That's all for tonight. Thank you all once more for being here. We will see you next week.
I am also going to PAX. I don't know if I mentioned it. I'm going to PAX East, so I'll see you all there.
PAX
going.
East.
Yep. So. And role players is also going to be going to a ghost in my mind.
Ghost is telling us
is telling us that C2 that role players will be going to C2E2 as well. So if you guys are going to any of those cons, either PAX East or C2E2, go out, seek out one of us, say hello, tell us how much you like the show, because we love to hear it and we'd love to talk with you all about it. So thank you very much.
Hey, let's go get food.
Yes, let's do it.
It's something we do. I think a lot of us are going to be going to a lot of conventions this year, and hopefully we'll have a good opportunity to create events for meetups and things like that, or we'll have official events at the conventions. I know that's something we're working on and something that we'll be sharing as we continue to build our community and our tools and platform here. But that's it. We'll be back next week. We'll have Rysar return. We have a little thing that he was doing that we need to resolve, because it's terrifying to me, and not because of me, because of him. So, you see that look? That's for you. That's for you, Toby. All right, friends. Well, thank you for being here. You all have a good night.
Goodbye,
we
posters.
will see you next week.
Goodbye, all the posters.